This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
This is Capital Connection. Fridays during the Noon Report, we give you direct connection to all that's happening in Albany and Harrisburg with the experts on the issues at the state capitals. Jason McGuire with New York Families and Michael Gear at the Pennsylvania Family Institute. Well, Michael, unfortunately, Jason is unable to be with us today as he recovers from surgery, but we're all praying for a speedy recovery for him. So it's 10 minutes of Michael Gear. Here we go. And as this airs, Michael, your organization is on the National Mall for the 53rd Annual March for Life, joining tens of thousands who are giving voice to the voiceless today. It has been said that abortion is the greatest human rights abuse of our time, Michael. I know you wouldn't disagree with that, but I'm wondering, what are the major battle lines in 2026, as far as you can tell, as you work to advance the cause of life in this country?
Well, first I want to just salute the folks that are there on the Mall in Washington, D.C. today in this longest-lasting civil rights march in history. So I'd say, Bob, among the big challenges right now is the expanded use and promotion of chemical abortions, the so-called abortion pill. Other challenges include the continuing political and legal attacks on pro-life pregnancy care centers who serve on the front lines of caring and serving women. Also contributing to the demand for abortion is the decline of the institution of marriage as more and more young people are choosing not to get married until later in life, and that is a societal trend that I think we must work hard to reverse.
Well, Vice President J.D. Vance is among the speakers at today's rally. Of course, he's going to be a dad again this summer. His wife, Usha, announcing that they're pregnant with their fourth child. But how satisfied are you, Michael, with the Trump administration in its efforts to promote life, whether it be through legislation, executive action, or judicial appointment?
Well, I do offer congratulations to the Vice President and his wife. It's wonderful to hear news of a fourth child that they're going to have in their family. The Trump administration, we have a lot to salute them for, especially in the first Trump administration with the judicial appointments that were made that resulted in the overturn of the Roe versus Wade decision. I do have some concerns about the Trump administration related to the negotiations that are taking place on potential extension of the Obamacare subsidies. And the president had said, let's be a little bit flexible on the Hyde Amendment, which is federal funding for abortion. We don't want to see that, and so we have used our voice and encouraged people to tell the Trump administration no flexibility, no federal funding of abortion.
Yeah. Well, two lines that I love to hear you say, Michael, and you've said them many times on this program, is abortion is not health care. I love that line. Yep. And pregnancy is not a disease. What are some effective strategies that pro-lifers can employ to rebuff the lies that are being promoted by the abortion industry? Because you do hear that a lot from the abortion industry. Abortion is health care. No, it's not. If you would talk about what are some strategies pro-lifers can employ to win the argument here? Well,
we talk about the Hippocratic Oath that doctors have taken, throughout history, and the notion is first do no harm. And the notion that somehow harming a innocent human life through abortion is somehow healthcare just runs simply counter to common sense, and also I think has denigrated and diminished the healthcare industry entirely. Death is not healthcare. But part of the problem is that those lies that the abortion industry is promoting are funded with lots of money from the abortion industry, and then they have the support and complicity of the mainstream media. But as I think about the ups and downs of the pro-life movement over the decades, I think the greatest positive strides that we've seen is when we can highlight the humanity of the unborn child. That points to the innate capacity of human beings to have compassion and empathy when they realize that unborn child is a human life deserving of protection in law.
Yeah. Are you worried at all, Michael, that a lot of our Bible-believing churches are losing interest in this fight? We used to all the time celebrate Sanctity of Human Life Sunday. I know some churches didn't even mention it last week. Is that something you're worried about at all?
Well, it's a challenge, and there's no question about it. And I think the evidence that we have of the church needing to step up and to advance its voice on this issue is in our neighboring state of Ohio. They had back just a couple of years ago a constitutional amendment to legalize abortion right through birth that was on the ballot. Ohio had been a pro-life state, had a heartbeat law on the books, and so that was something the legislature and the people seemed to want. And yet when it went to the ballot box, it passed, and that constitutional amendment now is part of the Constitution in Ohio, saying abortion is legal right up until birth. The exit polling that our sister organization did in Ohio found that almost 50% of Catholics and about 35% of evangelicals voted for allowing abortion right up until birth. And that is an indicator that the church is not really fully doing its job in terms of giving the biblical mandate that every life is precious, and that as God had told us in Deuteronomy 30, that we should choose life. Yeah. And we need to step that up.
Amen. Well, I know John Stonestreet is going to be speaking at one of your banquets here coming up, but he told me recently, I thought this was great, that the key to making abortion rare is to make abortion unthinkable. And to do that, it takes pregnancy care centers on the front lines here, defending life amid this ongoing Holocaust. There's still today in Pennsylvania about 100 abortions every day. Talk, if you would, about the vital role that pregnancy care centers play in your state and across the country.
Well, if anybody doubts that they play that vital role, they just need to look at the work of folks like Letitia James and others, past attorneys general here in Pennsylvania that have targeted pregnancy resource centers because they see them as a real threat to the abortion ideology, to the promotion of the taking of human life. Pro-life pregnancy centers are on the front line. We salute their work each and every day. We encourage people, including listeners of this program, to support them financially, to consider ways they can volunteer and participate in the pregnancy care centers, because they are doing what the pro-life movement has historically done, even though we're accused of not doing it, and that's caring for the women who are in those situations where people are telling them that the answer is to abort that child, and the pro-life pregnancy centers are providing, no, that is not the right answer, but not only is it not the right answer, but we will come alongside you as you choose life, as God tells us to do.
Amen. A couple other issues I want to bring up with you, Michael, so folks can plan to at least pray for these events. But next Thursday, you're going to be hosting a webinar on the dangers of physician-assisted suicide. And, when we talk about being pro-life, you've said it many times. It's not enough just to be pro-life at the womb. You've got to be pro-life from the womb to the tomb. Yes. Why did you feel it's so important to put on this seminar on the dangers of physician-assisted suicide?
Well, we only need here in Pennsylvania to look to our northern border and see what has happened in the state of New York with the embrace of that issue, and then further north looking at Canada and just the devastation that is taking place in that country as people are embracing a culture of death and thinking, if you're someone suppressed or a teenager doesn't want to live anymore or whatever, that it's appropriate to take their lives. And so we want to get ahead of that to the extent that we can here in Pennsylvania. We're especially encouraging pastors to participate in this webinar so that they can get up to speed. Right now, it's not an imminent threat in Pennsylvania because we have a Republican state Senate that stands against it, but that could easily flip in a next election, and the pressure is on. There's lots of money that's being spent to advance the so-called physician-assisted suicide, and people need to wake up and to get engaged, to use their voice.
It is free, but you do have to register. We're going to give that address in just a minute, but first, Prayer for PA rally is happening Tuesday at the state capitol. What are some things that people of faith can be praying about, Michael, in the run-up to the 2026 midterms?
Well, this rally is being sponsored by our Church Ambassador Network, which is a group of pastors that are part of our team, but then recruit other pastors to be at the Capitol to bring the light of the gospel into that place and to be praying for those in authority, as we're told to do in Peter's first epistle to Timothy. And in that, we are encouraging people, number one, to be praying for our elected officials, and then for this election that's coming up, because so much is at stake that will be on the ballot as people choose who their elected leaders will be here in Pennsylvania. So whether it's the sanctity of life issue, the issue of so-called legalization of commercial sale of marijuana, so many other issues, including physician-assisted suicides, as we just talked about, are all part and parcel of what we're going to be praying about as we gather there at the Capitol.
All right. Again, if you want to take part in that webinar, it's next Thursday. The Pennsylvania Family Institute is sponsoring. So important that people get educated on this issue. Michael, if folks want to be a part of that, where can they find you online?
pafamily.org.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.